Another video on bacon mince. You can buy cooking bacon in the supermarket. It's very cheap, but I find it a bit salty. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the offcuts from bacon joints that the machine can't slice into nice enough slices and for them to be able to sell. So they package it up and sell it as cooking bacon. It's very good. Sometimes you get almost like gammon steaks in it. So it's one of the cheapest ways to, probably the cheapest way to buy meat. But I find it a little bit salty. I've done this before. So what I did was I soaked it in some water overnight to kind of draw out some of the excess salt, and then I turned it into meatballs, and they were very nice. But they were a little bit soft. So I just want to have like another go. I think I used fresh bread. Probably did. Yeah, I used fresh bread. Whereas this time I'm going to use the dried breadcrumbs. So the mince has soaked up some of the water that I was soaking it in. So it was 125, no, not 125, 1.25 kilos of bacon, but we're now about 1.5 kilos of liquid of weight of bacon. So it's drawn out, it retains some of that moisture. So I'm going to put in, I'm not going to put any onion in this time because I've got chives in the garden. So there's about 60 grams worth of chopped chives, quite a lot of chopped chives, which is going to be the onion part of it, and also kind of compensate for the parsley that you normally put in meatballs, or a bit of thyme. And then there's going to be there's 200 grams worth of cheese I'm going to put in this time, which is a luxury. Looks quite a lot, doesn't it now? But like 200 grams worth of, is that going to be too much? They're just going to be really cheesy, aren't they? That's a lot of cheese. Well, what am I going to do? Well, let's put in half that amount, and then let's put in 100 grams worth of dried breadcrumbs to kind of see how we get going. And is there anything else now? We don't need to put salt in, but we do need to put some pepper in. What we'll do is we'll put that cheese in a bowl, and then when I'm mixing the meatballs, it doesn't squish out and make a mess of the cheese, and then we can use that cheese for something else. I should have checked the recipe how much cheese. I don't. If we're doing like a cheap recipe, I don't put the cheese in. So like limited budget, limited ingredients type of recipe, I miss out the cheese because cheese is expensive, and we don't necessarily need to put the cheese in the meatballs. We'll go that way, and we want a couple of eggs, a couple of medium eggs in there as well for about a kilo of meat. I reckon about an egg. Well, no, half a kilo. I reckon an egg. I'm going to scrunch this all together, so we don't need to mix them up. And then we'll see how we go. So if it feels a bit wet, we'll add a bit more breadcrumb, and then we'll see what how the cheese kind of looks in it. But the bacon fat's got a nice mince has got a nice amount of fat in it. If we put in that extra breadcrumb, we'll go a bit further, won't it? Yeah, I think we'll get away with putting it. Yeah, let's put in the full 200 grams worth of dried breadcrumbs. So they're just the crust from the bread that I make that I just dry out in the oven, just to kind of not waste anything. And it tastes nicer than breadcrumbs that you can buy, or make breadcrumbs out of the bread that you can buy from the supermarket. It's not very nice, unless you go to a proper artisan bakery and spend a fortune. That feels okay. So just get like a proper mix, and then we know that everything's combined. But any excess, fat, the bacon was a little bit fatty, but that'll be fine because the breadcrumbs will soak that up, and any kind of liquid that wants to come out of the pork, the bacon mince will be soaked up by the bread as well. So that feels about right. Do want to put that cheese in? No, it looks like we've got plenty of cheese in there. That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? No, 100 grams is enough. 100 grams is enough. Yeah, that's 100 grams. Maybe. Do I want to? What does it matter? Let's put it in. let's put it in. So I've just made myself some washing up, but not to worry. And that's okay. It doesn't look as much when you put it in like that. So these would be very cheesy, bacony meatballs with, it looks like the right amount of chives as well. So, and then we'll form these into meatballs, and I'm going to leave them to set overnight, I think. I'd normally just roll them and start frying them, but I think we'll roll them and let them set in the fridge overnight so they firm up a little bit. I was watching something, and someone was talking about letting them firm up a little bit. So, about that size, we'll probably get about 40, I think, out of this lot. So, but you get the idea. I don't think they'll stick to my hands too badly because the bacon's kind of quite wet. So, you don't need to see me rolling meatballs, and you don't need to see me put them in a container in the fridge. We can count how many we've got tomorrow when I'm cooking them. But yeah, there we go. So I'll carry on with that, and then we'll cook them tomorrow. Right, so they've been in the fridge overnight. How they firmed up. Oh yeah, they firmed up nicely. So I'm going to grill those. What am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to grill them. I'm not going to fry them. I'm going to grill them. I'm going to grill them in this container. So it's a metal container, so it's fine underneath the grill. So we'll grill them. Well, it's not actually. Technically, grill is the heat coming from the bottom. A salamander is heat coming from the top down. And then there's one that's heat from top and bottom. I forgot what that's called, but anyway. So I'm going to we'll use the grill in the oven, although it's a salamander really, or the toaster. Do the tops, colour the tops, and then we'll turn them over and do the bottoms. And then I'm actually going to cook the meatballs in the tomato sauce in this container in the oven. So that'll kind of save on the washing up as well. So kind of fat and a bit of residual will come out of the meatballs, and then that'll cook into the tomato sauce as well, and that'll be kind of really nice. Because I'm going to do something else in the oven as well, so they might as well sit in the oven at 120 degrees for most of the afternoon, slowly cooking. And that'll be kind of quite nice. So hot grill, give them some colour, and then we'll cook them in the tomato sauce. So the meatballs are nearly ready. So just out of curiosity, what I want to do is I want to make a tomato sauce in a different way. So in South America, what they do is they don't chop up the onion and fry it and then add the tomatoes. They just puree their vegetables and add them to the tomato, and then just kind of like fry it up that way. So kind of cook the tomato sauce with the pureed up raw onion and any other vegetables that we're going to use in it. So I thought, let's give it a go, see if it makes a huge amount of difference. I can't imagine it will. So 3 tins of tomatoes, and they're just the cheap ones, because I find it much more interesting to turn cheaper ingredients into something nice. I always think it's a bit cheap taking really expensive, good quality. Well, no, it doesn't have to be expensive, but like really good quality ingredients. Of course, they're going to make a nice dish, but I'm much more interested in taking something a little bit cheaper, working a little bit harder, and turning it into something just as nice. So, 400 grams of onions. That's peeled weight-ish, well, maybe 450. And then 3 400-gram tins of tomatoes. 2 are chopped and one's just whole tomatoes, but it's whatever I can get my hands on. See, that's much easier than chopping an onion. So those aren't chopped, so they can go in. So we'll puree those up at the same time. I'm actually a little bit liquid in there to swirl that out. In as well. And then we might need to puree the sauce afterwards, will we? I'm not going to season it, so that can just be careful when you're using banging plastic on things, because it's got a habit of cracking. So I'm not going to wash that up because we might need another 2 tomatoes. So let's have a look at these meatballs. Oh, they're lovely. Look at them. So turn these off for a second, and then we'll pour this tomato sauce over. So there's all the fat that's come out of them, and they've caramelised on the bottom bit, so we've not lost any kind of flavour there. You can see there's fat and juice coming out, which is going to enrich the sauce. And then we'll just get an idea if that's going to be enough sauce. That's plenty of sauce. Plenty sauce. So that's alright. Oh, we never counted. There was about 42 meatballs. If I remember rightly. I suppose I could count them. I'm not going to do so. Just need to rinse that out with a little bit of water, which we don't like waste. Because anything that we put in the bin or throw down the sink that had a little bit of flavour left in it, it's a waste of money, isn't it? And money is a lot tighter these days. Yeah, I was chatting to a friend who's a greengrocer and delivers to the local areas, the local restaurants, and he said that everyone's really struggling at the moment. So it looks like people have really cut back on their spending. That's a whole nother discussion, isn't it? So, don't need any herbs in that because we've got the chives in there. So, bit of foil on the top, and then the oven's going to be on, drying something out at about 120 degrees. So I'll just stick it in the oven at 120 degrees, and it'll cook slower, but it won't matter because I'm doing something else in the oven at the same time. So that saves a bit of power, doesn't it? So let's have a look and a taste. Should have got myself a fork out before I started. Ooh, a little bit over on the outside, but not to worry. Ah, they're fine underneath. They just caramelise a little bit on the top. So, no, I won't put them on a plate. I'll just eat them out the tray. That's all right, isn't it? That's all right. They've held together. So I think that's about the right. I think that if we're going to remove the excess salt out of the bacon, I think it needs to be, it soaks up that water, so I think it needs to be dried breadcrumbs. Yeah. They're kind of lovely and soft. Yeah, but still hold together better than the ones that I use the fresh bread in. So I would recommend using dried breadcrumbs. Those are lovely. I'm certainly make use of the chives that are out in the garden for free, and that cheese in it is lovely. But not necessarily, you don't have to put that cheese in, but I think so. Meatballs, I kind of think a kilo of meat, whatever meat you're using, to 2 eggs, to 200 grams worth of dried breadcrumbs, if you or fresh breadcrumbs, depending on what meat you're using, is a good kind of ratio. And then everything else is a bonus. So if you're going to put some herbs in, that's a bonus. If you're going to put in some onion, that's a bit of a bonus. Some cheese in, that's a bit of a bonus. But I'd just recommend that those 3 ingredients are your basis. Those are lovely. Slightly overcooked now, but that's because I left them in the oven and went out. So I'm lucky they didn't all burn all to bits, but they're fine there. In fact, I'll eat that. And then it's just the top of it that's caught. That's fine. There we go. Success.